Hey everybody, Casmo here, and today we're going to talk about landing the Hind in DCS. Before we get started, I do want to encourage everyone to hit subscribe for me. I really appreciate it. And I also want us to reference our earlier numbers we learned from a previous lesson. We're looking down at our pitch angle, and if you remember, we needed to pull in about 11 to hover and about 13 to climb and do a climbing altitude over airspeed takeoff. Additionally, for our ground taxi, if you remember, we pulled in about 2% pitch in order to get the aircraft moving and keep that inertia going. We're going to need that number when we start doing our aerodynamic braking after our landing. These numbers are important because you have to understand that as you're coming in for a landing, you're going to be reducing your collective and you're going to be reducing your airspeed. So eventually the aircraft is going to enter a hovering state. If you don't have at around these numbers, the aircraft is potentially going to fall through and you're going to hit the ground or enter a VRS type situation. Alright, so we'll do our first approach. I've brought up the indicators down there at the bottom to show our speeds and knots and our altitude and feet. As well as our gauges in the aircraft, and we're just going to start our descent. You can see I've lowered the collective quite a bit, and I'm pulling back on the cyclic just to start managing that airspeed. And what I want to do is just bring that airspeed back to around 60 or 70 knots as we're turning into base, and then continue to bring it back as we turn into final. During this turn, we will be keeping the aircraft in trim, so don't worry about how the nose is looking. Just continue to work that flight path around your base and final turn. Alright, airspeed and altitude is looking good. We're just going to continue around and line up on the runway. I'm going to continue to work that cyclic to the rear and keep that collective down as long as I need to bring that airspeed down. But eventually I know I'm going to have to start bringing in the power. So I'm going to start bringing in the power just a little bit in anticipation of needing not quite hover power, but just slightly below. And of course I'm going to have to cushion our landing here at the bottom. So I'm just working on my lane alignment, keeping the aircraft out of trim so I can see until I get to about 50 feet. Then I'm going to get lane alignment. Start bringing in more collective to cushion my landing, level the attitude of the aircraft. Wheels down, pedals to maintain alignment. And you can see I'm lowering my collective. I'm going to take it down to about 2 degrees of pitch, pull back on the cyclic, and start using aerodynamic braking with the rotor system. Alright, this approach is pretty much the same thing, except we're just going to go a little bit faster and show you that you can come in a bit faster. You just got to be a little bit more aggressive on your decel, and you've got to do that higher up so that you don't strike the tail. Once again, we're working back that cyclic to slow our approach down, lowering our collective, continuing our descent, line up on the runway. Once we get below 50 feet, we'll start lane alignment with the wheels. Start bringing in that cushion with the collective. Touchdown, lane alignment with pedals. Collective down to about 2% pitch. Cyclic to the rear and aerodynamic braking. Sometimes landing at an improved runway is not an option for whatever technical or tactical reasons, and you may have to put it down into a field, unimproved area, or to a point at a FARP. This can be pretty challenging with an aircraft like the Hind, especially when it's in a high load configuration. So we've identified our landing site. We're going to go ahead and put our gear down, and we're going to reduce collective, start pulling back on that cyclic, and get our airspeed under control. We're going to maintain our descent. We're going to try to remain above a 300 foot per minute rate of descent. We're coming around here, slowing down the aircraft. We're going to pick the last 1/3 of this large field as our touchdown point. That way we've got plenty of space behind us that we know we're going to clear any obstacles. Again, we're going to work out our speed here while we still got some altitude and try to avoid entering any sort of vortex ring state. We've cleared the trees, and we're just going to continue forward and down, keeping that nose up as I'm still trying to wrestle the airspeed back from around 40 knots. We've got a good brisk walk, referencing all the terrain outside. Lost control of my nose just a little bit, going to bring that back around forward, terminate the aircraft to a hover, and then bring it straight down. Alright, so let's try one more. Again, we're going to reduce our collective, bring our cyclic back, lower our gear. And we're going to enter a turning descent, managing our airspeed, managing our vertical rate of descent. We're going to reference the terrain outside. Try to manage our airspeed so that it appears like we're walking at a brisk pace. Keeping a sharp eye on that descent rate. We're about 300-400 feet. I'm going to start bringing in more power so I can arrest that early. Continuing our descent forward and down, referencing the terrain outside. I can't actually see my intended touchdown point, but that's okay because I took a mental picture of it. I know where those trees are in reference to my touchdown point. Continuing forward and down, forward and down, forward and down. Slowly, slowly. Terminate to a hover, and then bring the aircraft straight down. Now, if you do have any forward momentum when you touch down, that's okay. It's actually probably preferred. It keeps the dust cloud behind you. You can just go ahead and use your wheel brakes to bring yourself to a stop. Now, landing to a point with an aircraft like the Hind or the Hip is pretty challenging because of that induced vortex ring state, which I think is probably a little bit extreme in the DCS world. But I don't know. I've never flown any of these aircraft in person. I do know just manage your airspeed, keep it slow, avoid any excessive descent rates above 300 feet per minute. And anything with a helicopter and landing is really just a game of managing your energy, managing your torque, and remembering that slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you got any questions or comments, go ahead and put them down below. And again, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate everyone for watching, and we'll talk to you guys later. Take care.